What if I told you that a fully functional airplane with experienced pilots suddenly plunged into the ocean for reasons still debated today? This is the story of EgyptAir Flight 990. Just imagine, it's the 31st of October, 1999. A Boeing 767 takes off from Los Angeles, bound for Cairo, with a stop in New York. On board are 217 people, all expecting a routine flight. But just off the east coast of the United States, something goes terribly wrong and the plane dives into the Atlantic Ocean. The news of the crash sent shockwaves around the world. The immediate reaction was one of disbelief. How could a modern aircraft with experienced pilots fall from the sky without any apparent reason? The search for answers began immediately, with the National Transportation Safety Board leading the investigation. As investigators flocked to the crash site, little did they know the mystery they were about to unravel. On October 31, 1999, EgyptAir Flight 990 was no different from any other transatlantic journey. As the dawn broke, the Boeing 767 stood gleaming under the morning sun on the tarmac of Los Angeles International Airport. It was destined for Cairo, Egypt, with a stopover at John F. Kennedy International Airport in New York. The crew was an experienced one, led by Captain Ahmed El-Habashi, a veteran with over 7,000 flying hours, and his first officer, Adel Anwar, a relatively younger but equally competent pilot. The aircraft was staffed with a proficient team of 10 cabin crew members, all ready to ensure the comfort and safety of their passengers. On board were 217 souls, a diverse mix of nationalities and stories. Some were returning home after vacations while others were on business trips. There were families with children, couples, and individuals, each with their hopes and dreams, oblivious of the fate that was to unfold. The weather conditions were near perfect. The sky was clear with a gentle breeze, the kind of day pilots refer to as severe clear. The Boeing 767, with its twin engines humming steadily, taxied down the runway and took off into the blue yonder without a hitch. The aircraft ascended to its cruising altitude of 33,000 feet, and the seatbelt signs were turned off. Passengers settled into their seats, some dozing off, others engrossed in books or films. The cabin crew began their service, moving through the aisles with trays of food and drinks. The hum of conversation filled the cabin, punctuated by occasional laughter. The first few hours of the flight passed without incident. The pilots communicated routinely with air traffic control, reporting their position and altitude. There were no signs of distress or any indication of the impending disaster. It was, for all intents and purposes, a typical long-haul flight. Everything seemed perfectly normal, until it wasn't. Approximately 30 minutes after takeoff, something went terribly wrong. An ordinary flight turned into a chilling nightmare. The EgyptAir Flight 990, cruising at an altitude of about 33,000 feet, suddenly began a rapid descent. The plane, a Boeing 767, was a mechanical marvel, designed to withstand extreme conditions and equipped with state-of-the-art systems. Yet, in this fateful moment, it seemed to have a mind of its own. It plunged, nose first, towards the unforgiving Atlantic below. Meanwhile, in the cockpit, a desperate battle for control was underway. The pilots, seasoned veterans with countless flight hours under their belts, grappled with the controls. They pulled back on the yoke, straining against the forces of gravity and inertia. They fought with every ounce of their strength, their training, their experience, to pull the plane out of its deadly dive. Simultaneously, air traffic control was in a state of high alert. They received the last recorded communication from the doomed aircraft. The pilots' voices were tense, filled with urgency, yet laced with a haunting calmness. Their words echoed in the control room, a chilling testament to their final moments. The air traffic controllers on the other end could only watch in helpless horror as the blip representing Flight 990 disappeared from their radar screens. They issued frantic calls to the aircraft, each one met with a deafening silence. The plane continued its plunge, the ground rushing up to meet it. The last few seconds must have been terrifying for the crew and passengers, a final realization of the inevitable. In less than 3 minutes, the plane and all its passengers were swallowed by the dark, cold Atlantic waters. This was the fateful plunge of EgyptAir Flight 990, a moment forever etched in the annals of aviation history. As the news of the crash spread, investigators from around the world gathered to solve this aviation mystery. A formidable team of experts from various fields, aviation, forensics, meteorology, and engineering, was assembled. Their mission? to unravel the enigma that was the crash of EgyptAir Flight 990. The initial findings were a mixture of confusion and clarity. Amid the wreckage scattered across the Atlantic Ocean, the investigators found both the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder, the so-called black boxes. These devices, designed to survive even the most catastrophic of crashes, promised to hold the key to understanding the final moments of the flight. The recovery of the black boxes was, however, no simple task. They were nestled deep within the ocean, surrounded by debris and fragments of the aircraft. The harsh weather conditions and the vast depth of the ocean made the recovery process arduous and time-consuming, but the investigators persisted, driven by their resolve to uncover the truth. But the black boxes, once recovered, posed another challenge. The data they held was not as clear-cut as the investigators had hoped. The cockpit voice recorder captured sounds and conversations, but interpreting them was like trying to decipher a cryptic puzzle. The flight data recorder, too, raised more questions than it answered. It revealed that the plane had plunged into the ocean, but why? Was it a mechanical failure, a deliberate act, or something completely unexpected? Each day of the investigation brought with it new findings, new challenges, and new questions. The mystery of EgyptAir Flight 990 seemed to deepen with every passing day. The world watched with bated breath, waiting for answers that seemed to be always just out of reach. But the investigators remained undeterred, their determination unwavering. They knew that every piece of evidence, every tiny clue, brought them closer to the truth. The mystery of EgyptAir Flight 990 seemed to deepen with every passing day. But as the saying goes, it's always darkest before the dawn. The answers were out there somewhere, waiting to be found. As the investigation progressed, so did the theories about what could have caused the crash. A myriad of conjectures bubbled to the surface, each more perplexing than the last. Two main theories, however, seemed to take the spotlight: mechanical failure and pilot suicide. Mechanical failure was the first theory to be considered. Some experts postulated that a fault in the plane's elevators, the movable control surfaces that allow a plane to climb or descend, might have led to the fatal plunge. They believed that a malfunction in these crucial components could have made it impossible for the pilots to control the aircraft, resulting in the dreadful descent into the Atlantic Ocean. The second theory, and arguably the more controversial one, was pilot suicide. This theory was primarily driven by the American investigation team, who pointed to evidence from the cockpit voice recorder. They suggested that one of the pilots may have intentionally crashed the plane, a thought that sent chills down the spine of many. However, the Egyptian investigation team vehemently disagreed with this theory. They argued that the evidence was inconclusive and that it was unjust to tarnish the reputation of the pilots without irrefutable proof. They maintained that mechanical failure was the more plausible explanation, leading to a significant rift between the two investigating teams. These disagreements only fueled the fire of the controversies surrounding the crash of EgyptAir Flight 990. The theories, accompanied by their respective proponents and their fervent debates, kept the tragic event in the public eye, turning it into a source of enduring speculation and conjecture. Despite exhaustive investigations, the real cause of the crash remains a topic of heated debate to this day. The crash of EgyptAir Flight 990 left a lasting impact on aviation safety and international relations. This tragic event spurred a global reflection on flight safety standards, prompting significant changes in cockpit procedures. The introduction of two-person cockpit rules in many airlines worldwide was one of these pivotal changes, aimed at ensuring there's never a lone individual controlling the flight, thereby reducing the risk of similar incidents. The accident also put a spotlight on the mental health of pilots, leading to more rigorous psychological evaluation procedures. Gone were the days of assuming infallibility. The industry had to confront the reality that pilots, like anyone, could be vulnerable to mental health issues. On the geopolitical front, the crash strained U.S.-Egypt relations. The differing interpretations of the incident from the American and Egyptian investigative bodies led to diplomatic tensions that took years to ease. The intriguing story of EgyptAir Flight 990 serves as a poignant reminder of the enduring mysteries of aviation.